Let's do a show. Let's do a show right now. What are we doing?
Can't you see? Everyone! They're here already! You're next!
Let's go!
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born!
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
Hey, Funkhauser.
Yeah.
Can you play that Third Eye Blind song, Jumper?
Yeah, sure. Why?
It's the 20th anniversary of this album, and they're doing like this massive tour. Like, this is a band that a lot of people don't know, a lot of people don't realize. Yeah.
My friend, you could cut ties with all the lies that you've been living in. And if you do not want to see me again, I would understand.
So I think the cutoff for classic rock is 20 years, so this is now classic rock. How does that make you feel, Funkhauser?
Stop. just stop with the pop rock.
You want to know what's... Turn this down for a second. You want to know what's interesting about this song? You know what it's about?
Jumping?
You don't have to turn it all the way down, but like, this song is about a friend of Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind that chose to end his life. A guy actually in San Diego who was gay, and I can't remember how the story goes. I don't know if he was a member of the military, and this even predates Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But he was in a community where being gay was not looked upon fondly, and he felt like his life meant so much pain that instead of living it, he chose to end it. And this is a song where lead singer of Third Eye Blind, Stephen Jenkins, is eulogizing his gay friend who decided he couldn't handle being alive anymore and made the decision to no longer do that. And you know what's, you can turn it down again a little bit. You know what's interesting about it is that it was a song eulogizing a friend of his that committed suicide. And Stephen Jenkins said, basically, because of the song's success and because of the tremendous reaction this song always gets live, it's become, over the years, in the 20 years that it's come out, the meaning's changed. It's become a song of hope and redemption and acceptance, which I think is really, really cool. And I think probably one of the reasons this song has stuck around. The real genius of this song is like the middle part, though. This part. Oh, my gosh.
My favorite, too. Mm-hmm.
Like, I still get chills listening to this. It was just genius and inspired.
It's a think break right here. Think about it.
Well, this part sounds like the Police, but it's that guitar line. So clever. Oh, here it comes. And this is the moment live. This is like the emotional high point of the show right here. Check it out. Play it loud, Funkhauser! So good. So good.
I just like that last note right when they get back into it.
Which one?
It's.
Oh, wait, this one right here?
It like the blue note, the brown note, you know?
Hold on,
right here.
Oh, this right. Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I can't play the guitar,
okay.
but that's
all right,
something.
Turn it down for a second. You know what you like there? You like the sound, and this is a little musically nerdy. You like the sound of a suspension. That's like, as opposed to playing a straight G or a straight C chord, you add a suspended note to it, and it gives that. I know exactly the song,
like
the sound you're talking about.
Yeah,
and you know who rode that sound all the way to the bank? If you play that one little bit of that Third Eye Blind song that you like, Funkhauser, play that one little bit. This part.
I love
Now
that.
play literally any Oasis song, like Wonderwall. No, seriously, play it. You'll hear play Wonderwall by Oasis.
I got Live Forever here. Hold on.
All right, I'm sure they do the same thing in that.
Oh, hold on. The video.
Are we listening to a commercial now? Do you hear it? Do you hear the similarity? They're playing G suspended and C suspended and E suspended.
I thought that was just a special guitar. It's a note?
No, it's a specific type of tuning. If I had a guitar in here, I could play it for you and show the difference between a straight chord and the suspended chord. But it's something that Oasis rode all the way to the bank. You know, actually, something kind of interesting about Oasis. Do you want to know what the connection is between Oasis and Third Eye Blind, and how how Oasis are directly responsible for Third Eye Blind's success? You want to know how, Funkhauser?
How?
Oh, I'll tell you next.
Let's start the show. Hot 2, hot 3, hot AZ from your radio live and uncut. Tonight, you're cutting loose and having fun. Cause that's my job, and my job's about to get done. Yeah. Radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
All right, so the little chord trick that Oasis use of playing mostly suspensions, like the vast majority of Oasis's music is made up of G suspended, E suspended, D suspended, C suspended. Like, those are the four chords that, like I said, Noel Gallagher and Liam Gallagher rode all the way to the bank. And you heard it in that Oasis song. But do you know how Oasis are directly responsible for Third Eye Blind's success?
No.
This is one of my favorite, music business insider stories, because there's very few occasions where the little guy, the little unsigned band, puts one over on a giant record label, and Third Eye Blind did it. Third Eye Blind were in talks with Sony to sign, and Third Eye Blind frontman Stephen Jenkins was like, you want to see what we're all about? You really want us to prove ourselves to you? Do this. Put us on the bill with your biggest band when they come through San Francisco, our hometown, and we'll blow them off the stage. And the biggest band that Sony had at the time was Oasis. So Third Eye Blind got to open up for Oasis when they rolled through and played San Francisco. I don't know if they blew them off the stage, but they had an incredible show. And because of that situation, because there's this little unsigned band from San Francisco that all of a sudden is opening up for Oasis and making huge noise, the herd mentality that dominates the record business dictated that weasels from all over the country came crawling with contracts in hand to Third Eye Blind, and it instigated this massive bidding war, and they wound up going with someone else, not Sony, and getting way more money. So they played Sony and got a ton more money out of, I think it was Elektra they wound up signing with instead. And like I said, there's very few instances where the little guy puts one over on the big guy, and at the time, that's what Third Eye Blind did. It was really cool. But yeah, that chord that you hear is one that the guys in Third Eye Blind use.
Then, huh?
The brown note is music lore. Has this, and I can attest to this being true. I don't know if there's a specific note, but I remember being out on Warped Tour with my band and wanting to watch bands that I really liked. And rather than dealing with getting punched in the head in a concrete parking lot, I would stand in front of the little barriers, kind of to the side, because it's really weird to stand right in front. So I would stand pretty much in front of the speaker watching the band, and I would do so with earplugs in because it would be mind-numbingly loud. But there was a bass note. There was a bass note that would come through, or a certain frequency that would rumble the lower part of your intestinal tract to the point where things got, you would experience a little thunder down under, and pretty soon you had to run to one of the most disgusting Warped Tour porta potties you've ever been to. And it's funny because I remember sitting there talking to the bass player of some band about this at lunchtime or catering. I think it was Murphy, this dude that used to play in Sugar Ray of all bands. And he was like, really? that's a thing, and he was the bass player. He was like, that would explain the amount of heinous number twos I've had to do since I started on this tour. Usually I have a little more room and I don't have to stand right in front of my bass cab, but on this one I do. And man, I thought it was the food we were eating. He was like, I've been more regular than I ever have in my life because of that. So that is the brown note. What you're talking about is the sound of a suspension, and it got used by Oasis, gets used by Third Eye Blind a lot, and it's all over the place, but especially those sort of like jangly indie rock bands that you heard in the late 90s and early 2000s were big fans of it.
If I could just play that on the guitar, I'd be happy.
I'll teach you. It's super easy. It's actually like a little less awkward than the chord shape for a normal G or a normal C. I'll teach you how to play all the Oasis songs in 4 chords. Not a problem.
Boy, that'd be a great show to listen to. Let's do it on the air.
Funkhauser's guitar lesson. I bet, like, if you really put your mind to it, you can name another band that uses that note.
The brown note?
Or just like that suspendy thing.
Well, there's this guy here. There's this Panic at the Disco song. Have you heard this one?
Yeah, I work in alternative rock. I've heard this song plenty.
Yeah. Okay, well, at the end of it, it goes da 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 da, right? And there was another song. Every time I played that song, I heard this song in my head.
Oh, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Is this Better Than Ezra?
Yeah.
Drive? Is it Drive?
In the Blood.
In the Blood? Yeah. You know why Better Than Ezra are called Better Than Ezra? You know how they got their name?
Was there a band named Ezra?
So, like, way back early in the day, you can turn this down. I'll start rocking out to it, and I'll forget. I like this band a lot. You can still go see this band at the House of Blues. They'll sell it out every single time. There's certain bands that just, like, dried up and blew away, and you never hear from them again. And then there's bands that you think are over and done with, like Better Than Ezra, who will sell out House of Blues all over the place. The dudes in Third Eye Blind, credit where credit is due. When they last came to Houston, where I'm on the buzz, they played Cynthia Wood's Mitchell Pavilion. That's a venue that holds 17,000 people. And Third Eye Blind, to this day, are the highest billing college band out there. Like, they play colleges mostly, and they make more money doing that than any other band in America. Like, they kind of went underground. They're not on a major label. They're not putting out hit songs anymore, but they put out music constantly. Well, not constantly, but regularly. And they're still, like, this big deal thing that not many people know about. So I guarantee you that 20th anniversary tour that they're doing, I would imagine it will be sold out completely.
I recently saw Better Than Ezra, and there was like 25 people there. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess they have their strong markets and non-strong markets. Last time I saw them, they were playing a sold-out show at the House of Blues. You know how Better Than Ezra got their name, though?
How?
When they first started out, they signed up to play a battle of the bands, but they didn't have a name yet. And to put your name down on the sign-up sheet, you needed to have a band name. And they looked down at the sign-up sheet and saw that there was a band playing called Ezra, and they're like, well, we're playing against them. We'll just be Better Than Ezra. And I think they won, too. The guys in Ezra must, to this day, be like jerks.
Real radio. 104.1.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
Speaking of songs that sound suspiciously like other songs where you feel like one band has studied another band's songwriting handbook a little closely and probably owes somebody some money. You know that song, you couldn't get away from it for the better part of a year and a half. Cold War Kids, First. Okay, so get that queued up, and while you're doing that, while we're taking a listen to the chorus of Cold War Kids First, look up a band called Sev and listen to their song, and get ready for their song, Same Old Song. All right, so there's that. Now listen to the chorus of Sev's Same Old Song. It's like uncanny. Wow. They even use the same word. Like they start the chorus with first. Like you couldn't be bothered to cover your tracks a little bit better than that, you bunch of thieves. Like, come on.
Hey, you know, I have a question about that. I heard a hip-hop song today, and I heard some familiar lyrics, and I think they're totally ripping off an old band. I don't know if you can like change the words just ever so slightly and then get away with it, but do you know this is a hip-hop song here. It just came out.
Oh, what? Machine Gun Kelly? Yeah, this is
It took me like 5 minutes to remember that.
Yeah, no, this is Fastball. Was I out of my head? Do you have that? Yeah, this song.
Do you think that's because of the internet? Everything's just starting to sound the same, or
no? I think people. There's something about music from the 90s. There's something about music from the 90s, and at first I thought I was like, okay, I've become that crotchety old dude that was like, nothing is as good as when I was in high school. Brr, brr, brr. But I also look at the stations I'm on and the bands we play and the audience that they have, and nothing could have summed it up more perfectly than when I went to see 9 Inch Nails and Soundgarden. And I'm sat next to a mother and daughter. Mom probably in her mid-40s, daughter probably about 16. And both of them equally into both bands. Both of them probably would have ditched the other to go hang out with Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. And there's just something about these bands. Like when we were kids, Funkhauser, when we were growing up in the 90s, music from the 70s, that was like 70s music or oldies music or our parents' music. Now, for whatever reason, a Nirvana record means the exact same thing, means just as much to a 16-year-old kid as it did to their parents when they were 16.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that we're old.
No, I'm just saying that the music has stood the test of time in a way that music historically hasn't. You know, things change, things evolve. And, you know, in terms of stuff that came out in the 90s, it's really sort of stuck around. And I thought about it further. I was like, not only has music sort of not moved on, there was a paradigm shift in the 90s in terms of rock. And, you know, you hear this story all the time. It was big hair bands. It was like your Motley Crues and Poisons and Warrants and She's My Cherry Pies and Skid Rows and stuff like that. Yeah, 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 was the battle cry for guys in spandex everywhere. And then overnight, it was not that anymore. Overnight, it became Alice in Chains. Overnight, it became Nirvana, Soundgarden, REM, Rage Against the Machine. And we haven't moved on since then. And I think that it speaks to the lack of innovation in music, but it also speaks to the power of the music that came out around that time. Like bands like Green Day and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, big deal bands that have been around for over 25 years, really still very relevant to kids in the way that they were to their parents. It's interesting. I wonder about this all the time, but I think because of the power of that music, that's why you're hearing people like Machine Gun Kelly borrow the melody from a Fastball song.
Is that why I like this song so much, this one here? Because it stood the test of time? Can you explain why I like this Dancing Queen from ABBA?
See, I think this one is more like you weren't alive when this came out. I think this is probably because you've just had fun times dancing to ABBA at people's weddings and stuff.
I guess so.
You just associate this with good times. You know what's interesting about that band, Sev? Like, play that. Do you have that song queued up? Mm-hmm. This was going to be like a hard political show today, and it's really not. But as a kid that grew up really into rap music and was in an obnoxious rap metal band, I was deeply offended by how bad this guy sucked at rapping.
Surrounded by a great hook.
Oh, the hook is crazy. And you know what's interesting? A buddy of mine signed this band. She was like our day-to-day manager, and then she got a job being A&R at Geffen. And you know where these guys got their record deal? How they got their record deal? They got their record deal off of that show, Matt and Jimmy's Farm Club. Matt Pinfield, legendary music personality, 120 Minutes, a bunch of different radio stations, that guy. Matt Pinfield and Jimmy Iovine, head of Interscope Records, had a TV show, like predating American Idol and all the singing and musical talent shows that there are now, where they were trying to find new bands. And it really didn't yield the greatest results. But the two bands that got signed off of that show were Sev, who you just heard, and Dynamite Hack. You remember Dynamite Hack?
Oh, yeah. That's my least favorite song there.
You want to play the cover of Boys in the Hood just so we can remind people who Dynamite Hack are?
Fine. Oh, you got to wait for the commercial here. They're making still money on YouTube with this dumb song. I like it, but I thought it was overplayed.
It did.
Quick ad about you. Just thought that I had to be in Compton soon. I gotta get drunk before the day begins. Before my mother starts bitching about my friends. About to go and damn near went blind. Young is on the path.
I don't know if this is...
Yeah, this is probably not the clean version. Maybe you should kill it. But that's who it is. It's the NWA cover that everybody heard. It was ubiquitous for about 2 straight years. And that came from that show, Fred and Jimmy's Farm Club. Yep. It's amazing how far we haven't come. It's so funny that all the rock people were sort of like, ugh, this isn't real music. And like every single rock band I know, like pre-American Idol, was like willing to give their left manly appendage to get on Fred and Jimmy's Farm Club so they could be part of a television talent show. Like I said, it's amazing how far we haven't come. How much time do we have left in this segment, Funkhauser?
Like 5 minutes here.
5 minutes? All right, that's enough Machine Gun Kelly. But yeah, Third Eye Blind, 20th anniversary. Crazy. Wow. Absolutely crazy. And like I said, still killing it. Is that how this conversation started?
Yeah, we were on Jumper with the brown note.
yeah, which turned out not to be the brown note. It turned out to be a suspended cord. Oh, my gosh. So I got more than a couple quizzical emails and messages and tweets and things of that nature yesterday in response to what we said about, well, look, everybody's all bent out of shape about Donald Trump. This is a smooth transition. You know, the brown note, that's actually a bass note that makes you poop yourself on the Warped Tour. And now let's talk about the McCarran-Walter Act. There's probably a smoother way to go from one to the other, but I don't know what that is, so we're just going to go with it. But yeah, when we were talking about Donald Trump's travel ban yesterday, and look, I really wish people wouldn't call it a Muslim ban. Is it a thinly veiled attempt to keep people of a certain faith out of America? A lot of people think so, and I believe that there's a certain amount of validity to that. But by not calling it what it is, call it a thinly veiled attempt. Don't call it a Muslim ban, because that's not what it is. Call it unfair, and you know why. Say that it targets people with that. But you're just, if you are honestly opposed to this, you're giving people ammunition when you call it the wrong name. Because then they can immediately go, well, you know, if you knew what you're talking about, you would know that it's not a Muslim ban, it's a travel ban. And it's a limited travel ban on people from certain countries where incidences of radical Islamic terrorism are rather high. So let's just call it what it is. The travel ban. And it is, well, a little similar to this thing called the McCarran-Walter Act. I made reference to what Jimmy Carter did, and Jimmy Carter purports to be one of the most peace-loving presidents of our time. He did something very, very similar. So by way of historical context, to answer the questions that I got a lot of yesterday, the McCarran-Walter Act was the Immigration and Nationality Act of, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. Allows for the suspension of entry or imposition of restrictions by the president whenever the president finds that the entry of aliens or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States. The president may, by proclamation and for such a period as he shall deem necessary, suspend entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose any restrictions on the entry of aliens he may deem to be appropriate. And so that was the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. And this process was last utilized by Democratic President Jimmy Carter 37 years ago in 1979. And he did it specifically to keep Iranians out of the United States. That was sort of America's first taste of terrorism that had emanated from the Middle East as a result of conflict there, conflict that we got involved in. And so back in 1979, when there were situations with terrorism, with hostages, with hijackings, things of that nature, he actually did more than that. He made it so all Iranian students who were already in the United States, and when we made reference to this is a lot like being rounded up, this is one step away from an internment camp, he made every single Iranian student already in the United States check in with the government. And then he deported tons of them. He deported 7,000 who were found in violation of their visas. And then because they were deemed to be not the best people to have around at that particular moment in time, a total of 15,000 Iranians were forced to leave the USA in 1979 by Jimmy Carter, allegedly the most peace-loving president of modern history. So that was the context. That was the historical context that people were looking for when they said, what the hell are you talking about? What did Jimmy Carter do? And, you're going to hear a lot of that because that's the standard excuse. Trump's doing something wrong. Oh, really? Look at beloved Democrat Jimmy Carter. So you're probably going to hear a lot of that if you haven't already in these situations where it comes up. Not only that, but like I said, the McCarran-Walter Act also requires that an applicant for immigration must be of, get this, good moral character and in agreement with the principles of our Constitution. And, well, this extreme vetting that Donald Trump is talking about, this is well-trod ground in America. And like I said, we got into it yesterday. I think there are large problems. There are large problems with this executive order. And I think that ultimately when it comes to feeding the fire of Islamic Jihad, and by the way, I think ISIS is already calling the immigration ban, the travel ban, a win. They're already sort of citing it as something that is helping them to radicalize people. I think that, you could go about this in better ways. But as we said yesterday, there's parts of this that make perfect sense. There's parts of it that are absolutely abhorrent and have nothing to do with the principles upon which this country was founded. But as we said yesterday, what's going on at the moment? Donald Trump made a whole bunch of promises that seemed pie in the sky, that seemed right up there with read my lips, no new taxes, in terms of believable promises that politicians make to secure office and then conveniently avoid, skirt, forget, diminish once they hit office. Donald Trump, in his first couple of weeks, has been proven that he's a man of his word to his supporters. I'm doing this, and this. I'm going after Obamacare. I'm going after Islamic terrorism. I'm going after immigration. I'm tightening up our borders. I am building that freaking wall. And he has signed a whole bunch of pieces of paper that say we will be doing all these things. But like I said yesterday, there will be settling. There will be pushback, and we will arrive, I would imagine, because I believe in you and I believe in me, a reasonable conclusion to all of this.
Houston's more stimulating talk radio, available anywhere you go on the iHeartRadio app. Download it now at kprcradio.com.
Now, more AD on the radio.
It's a lonely position. Said it before, I'll say it again, and it will always be true. It's a lonely position to be in a place of common sense and realizing that common sense is what's going to help us all move forward. When I suggest that parts of Donald Trump's executive actions make sense, lefties crawl all over me. When I say parts of them are absolutely abhorrent and make no sense, are in direct contradiction to the principles upon which our nation was founded, the Trump folks are like, I was with you for a second there, but now you lost me. Blah, blah, blah. And I've said many times on this show before, not here to agree with people, not here to pick sides, not here to do anything other than, like I said, move the ball of humanity further down the field. If you don't occasionally hear something on this show that challenges you and you don't challenge me, as a result, well, I'm probably not doing my job. I don't do this to stand alone. I don't do this to stand in a room full of people that agree with me and evangelize to them about how we're all right. I do this because I believe that no matter what our differences are, we can find common ground, and we can recognize the fact that we want the same things. We want the things that universally all Americans we want that roof over our heads. We want that job that provides and is meaningful to us. We want our kids to have our shot if we've got kids, and that means a shot at a good education, and that means a shot at a better life than the one that we are living right now. These things are not uncommon. These things are things that you want, I want, all of us want, ultimately in the end. And if we can agree that we're all after the same sort of stuff, well, then we can have a conversation. We can talk about ideas that we might have that the others don't. We might get there faster. So every single day I come in here and I know that by jumping on something or by not jumping on something, I'm going to anger two sets of people. And my job is to maintain a conversation while I get under folks' skin and help us discover that common ground. When I see a rift, I do my very best to close it. I do my very best to bring us together as much as politicians would divide us. Funkhauser, can you hear this chair? Can you hear this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just me?
Do you hear mine?
So freaking creaky. You would think that in a building that
literally everything in my studio squeaks.
Yeah, where they specialize in things that had to do with audio, somebody might come by with a little bit of WD-40, but no. And look, I love seeing people stand up. I love the fact that Donald Trump is going bananas with these executive actions that make people go, whoa, what the hell did you just do? I love it. And I love it not necessarily because I love the executive actions, I love the executive orders. I love the fact that it makes people stand up and think about who they are. I love the fact that these interesting and difficult and times with a giant question mark hanging over them are making people identify who they are, what they believe is worth standing up for, where their moral compass's true north points, and doing that. And that is what will result in something reasonable that moves us all forward. There's going to be parts of pretty much every piece of legislation that's ever written that has things that benefit you and things that you find to be morally reprehensible in it, generally speaking. However, being directly confronted with that with which you do not agree and making the decision to stand up for it, such a healthy thing for all of us on either side, to define ourselves as Americans and decide what we want with our America and push for it. It'll work. And you know what? Not to harken back to the 60s or anything, but it would appear that in addition to helping cut down on the obesity epidemic, all this marching is probably not a bad thing. It creates tremendous solidarity among people. Gathering. Being around. As much as it's great to engage people that you don't necessarily agree with, gathering in mass, I think it really speaks. I think it really, really speaks to people in office. You'll notice that one of the very few times that Donald Trump seemed to temper what he said on Twitter was in response to the Women's March, where he said, I don't necessarily agree with everything, but I love the fact that people can stand up in peaceful protest. That's a big part of America and who we are. He didn't go off all half-cocked on them. On you. On us. If you were part of the Women's March. I think that's something important to note. You have a voice. And more, I think you're going to be called upon yourself to use it. See, I still think that there's an upside in this situation. I really do. I know there's a lot of people that think the end of the world is nigh. But I think that this is a certain amount of pressure, and a certain amount of pressure that could create diamonds. I think that ultimately, what Donald Trump is in love with is the idea of winning, the idea of a legacy, the idea of ending up in a place at the end of his 4, 8 years, whatever it winds up being, where he is remembered fondly and he goes down in the history books as the guy who got the job done. And ultimately, he's not going to be able to do that unless he can get people on the same page. So I see all this happening. I see this stuff going on that is tremendous cause for concern for a lot of people. But there will be pushback. Things will settle. And I honestly believe that if we hold true to our principles, if we hold fast to our identity, if we remember who we are and who we want to be, I think that even if you feel as though Donald Trump is the worst thing to ever happen to this country, or maybe you think he is the greatest thing since sliced bread, I think there's a very good chance that we could wind up in a really good spot in the next 4 to 8 years. There's going to be a lot of clawing regret and sleepless nights wondering what the hell is going to happen next. But I think, like I said, maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I think we could wind up in a good spot. It's palpable. You can feel it. You can feel the mood in this country. It's antagonistic. It's nasty. It's divided in many ways. But it's also people come to grips with who they are and what's important to them and what we want for our America. And that's really hopeful.
Always hot enough to do with the top down. Cool breeze, palm trees. Tonight it's all good in the 713. Whoa, 713. Whoa, 713. Whoa, 713. Now it's 212. Now it's 713.
Real radio. 104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is.
The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
And another thing, while we're on the topic of stuff that Donald Trump says and does that might actually be more okay than we think it is, let's talk about this America First thing. I am not dispassionate about the plight of others in different countries. There are horrible things, horrific things happening all over the world. And the United States is in a unique position to help. You know, there was one of those people that had a green card, has had a green card since 1998. I wish I had the audio. But it was a woman from, I think she was from Syria. I believe she came to America as a Syrian refugee. Got her green card back in 1998 and was held up at the airport the other day. Someone's grandma. And her family was holding signs up saying, "Free grandma." Grandma eventually got free. Got into America. And they asked, the news folks said, "Do you have anything that you want to say?" And she'd been through an ordeal. She had been through an ordeal. And they said, "Do you have anything you want to say?" I think they were hoping for some sort of vitriolic, "This is an outrage. I'm an American. I have a green card. I'm naturalized. I'm a citizen. All the above. Like this, how dare you treat me this way?" And this woman, the free grandma lady, looks at the camera and goes, "I love you. I love America. I love you." What she went through to be here, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess, was unpleasant. You don't decide to uproot your entire life and move to a different country where you have no family, no friends, no connections, and go, "Let's completely start over." You don't do that when the situation at home is good. You don't move to the other side of the world and put yourself into a foreign land in an adverse situation where people are going to look at you funny and judge you if things are fantastic at home. So I'm guessing, without wanting to read too much into it, that the reason she said, "I love you, I love America," It's because she's happy to be here. And she had to go through some stuff to get here. And we've helped people like her by opening our doors, by opening our hearts, and by recognizing that that's a good portion of what makes America what it is. The things about America that we can draw senses of pride from, it's a big deal, and that's wonderful. And like I said, there's horrible things going on all over the world, and we are in a unique position to help. Well, we're in a position to help. There's other countries that can do the same thing. Oftentimes, it falls to us. And oftentimes, we are the folks that wind up meeting the call. And that's fantastic. But this America First thing, here's why I kind of echo that sentiment. Back in 2015, there was a study by the University of California at Berkeley. I think they found that in 2015, the federal government spent $152 billion on food stamps, assisted health insurance, and cash assistance programs like welfare, and more than 20% of the American population received public assistance. There were 50 million people in America at or below the poverty level. Over 500,000 people homeless at the time. An education system that, as much as we like to talk about American exceptionalism, trailing behind large portions of the rest of the world. And you look at all these things, and you look at the compassion we have as Americans. And then you look at what we're doing for other countries, economic aid to the tune of $6 billion in Afghanistan, Jordan, and Egypt for economic development purposes. Last year, I'm not entirely sure, don't quote me on this one, but I think over $30 billion in foreign aid. And look, I understand there's a lot of people in this world that need help, and America is in a special position to be able to provide that help. You might despise Trump. You might love him. But here's the deal. If you are compassionate, you want to help others, there's plenty here in our own country that need that. I'm not saying that the war in Iraq and the situation that it created in Syria, America and England taking out Saddam Hussein, creating a power vacuum that would be filled by ISIS, who would get up and running on this idea of a caliphate really fast and do atrocious things to people all over that region. Does our government, notice I didn't lump you and me into that, does our government bear a certain amount of responsibility for that? Why, yes. Yes, I believe they do. But here we are. If we want to get to work, if we want to help others, if we want to help people in dire situations that are on the verge of losing their lives, there's plenty to be done in America. Plenty to be done in America, especially with education, especially with assisting veterans. There are so many immediate steps that we can take in America, and regardless of who you voted for, regardless of whether you suckle at the teat of Fox or drink the Kool-Aid of CNN, you want to help. You want to be a compassionate person that does the right thing. There are plenty of opportunities to do that in a way that puts America first. JFK asked not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. There's plenty. And you know what? In this day and age, you want to feel good about yourself. You want to do something that winds up affecting the rest of the world. When you wake up in the morning, talk about this so much. When you wake up in the morning, in the face of it all, you wind up feeling so helpless because you look at the situation with Syrian refugees. You look at the situation with people in other parts of the world dying. You look at the situation with people in parts of America living in a state of lack or poverty or wondering if they're going to lose their lives or lose their health coverage or not be able to pay their premiums and be left dying in the streets. You feel helpless in the face of that all because it's massive. But you can do something. Nobody can help everyone, but everybody can help someone, as the old saying goes. And you have this opportunity in your sphere of influence, in your daily life, to make a difference. Can you control executive orders? No, you can stand up for what you believe in. You can stand up for what you believe in. You can be counted. You can protest. You can march. You can do all of those things. But that's politics. That's a long, unwieldy process that's going to evolve and unwind over time. And there's not much immediate satisfaction in that. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But there is immediacy in what you can do around you. There really is. Just by going out and being awesome to people. Figuring out a local charity, something in your neighborhood that speaks to you, where you can volunteer your time, volunteer money. I would recommend volunteering time. I would recommend putting yourself in a situation where you can volunteer to help with the work that whatever your local charity is doing. Puts you in touch, makes it real. Makes you feel like you're actually accomplishing something. It's great to write a check. They need checks, whatever it is. But you're going to feel so much better, like you have so much more control and influence over your little portion of the world. If you get your hands a little bit dirty every now and then, it's a great feeling. And it's something that you can do. So when I say America first, I'm not saying leave people where they're going to be beheaded in the name of Islam and jihad. When I say America first, you have a tremendous opportunity to wake up in the morning and do something awesome in your own household, in your place of business, in your own community. Don't ever lose sight of that. America first. Because it's a great place to start. It really is. And you can do it today. You could do something like volunteering to be a lifeguard in a retirement community.
I was a lifeguard in a retirement community when I was in high school. I had to save somebody. That pool was 3 feet deep. That's it. Just 3 feet. I was like, stand up! I grabbed my foot. There you go. Grab my foot. I had to give an old lady CPR. I'm 3 feet away like... Clear! I love old people. They're great. I took my grandfather to the Olympics when it was in Atlanta, and we're watching the gymnastics. And this poor girl from Romania trained her entire life for this one moment. Got up on the beam, turned, and just fell. And everyone goes, "Ah!" My grandfather yells out, "Well, how the hell did she make the team?"
So that might be a thing. You could get involved with the elderly. It seems like a good time, according to comedian Orny Adams. But, yeah, could you do me a favor? Just think about what it is you could contribute locally. And trust me on this one. In times where you don't know what the hell is going on, in times where you go, what will the next day bring? Holy freaking gosh. Focusing on helping others, focusing on everything in the world that is not yourself, focusing on what you can do rather than how you feel helpless. Man, not only are you going to be helping the people around you, you're going to be helping yourself in ways that you would not believe. We are set up, we are built for service to one another. And your own backyard is an awesome place to start. Funkhauser, let's do a little bit of news, shall we?
Okay. Starbucks has pledged to hire 10,000 refugees globally over the next 5 years.
Yeah, and I think Donald Trump supporters are boycotting Starbucks. More delicious coffee for me. So there's that. I have a really... Yeah, I can't know that I have a wildly politically incorrect punchline to the headline that... I'll tell you during the break, Funkhauser, and you can tell me if I can use it.
Is it too bad to tweet?
No, I think you definitely don't want a paper trail, digital or not. And it's like, I spend all my time talking about sort of like equality and doing the right thing. And while I don't believe the punchline I want to follow this up with to be true, I believe that it is truly funny. So, yeah, we're a conflicted bunch of individuals. Maybe I'll run it by you after we're off the air and see if we can't do it.
I'm already scared.
Yeah, till then, delicious Starbucks for me. Have yourself a good one. Thank you for hanging out.